So I recently stumbled across somebody who was talking about the South Node and how you can use your South Node towards your career and what type of work would be suited best for you. And I can't think of the name of this person who had posted the video, but it was a great video. And I wanted to post a video about your South Node in general and what the South Node means, as well as what you're comfortable in, the type of themes and things that you're comfortable with, depending on what your South Node is, if that makes sense. So if you are new to my page, welcome. This is Fun Fact About Astrology Part 4. And this is going to be talking about your specific South Node and what the South Node represents. So before I get into the specific signs, I want to talk a little bit about what your South Node represents. So our South Node is opposite from our North Node. Ketu and Rahu is what it is considered in Vedic astrology, but in tropical Western astrology, it is considered our South Node and North Node. But in this video, it's just going to be the South Node. So our South Node is basically what we come into this life already good at. These are themes in our life that are very comfortable for us. So when we talk about kind of the things that we aren't really striving for, these are things inherently traits and kind of talents that we come into this life with, right? And so with that being said, let's start on to South Node in the sign of Aries, right? We'll go 1 through 12 here. So if you have your South Node in the sign of Aries, you're very comfortable being very fierce. You're very comfortable being confrontational, and you're very comfortable being assertive with other people. And you'll notice that a lot of the times you might intimidate people with how assertive you are and how much you stand on your ground. Now, obviously, I do want to make a disclaimer as well. I am a practicing astrologer. I've been practicing astrology for about the past couple of years, 2 to 3 years. So these interpretations are going to be very general. And this also is dependent on, this is kind of assuming that you have nothing else in that sign, or this is kind of just taking that one specific placement. So don't really take this as fact, completely 100% true, because while it is generally true, because everybody's chart is different, it's going to look differently for you. This might just be a general theme in your life. Continuing on with the Aries South Node, you have this comfortability with leadership. You've come into this life inherently with a leadership, with an independence about you that is not very hard for you to achieve. It's very comfortable for you. You're very comfortable kind of carving your own path. You're kind of comfortable with being independent. And one of the challenges and things that you need to grow into within this life is being a little bit more pleasant with people. You might come into this life a little bit too aggressively. You might notice that people might be a little bit too intimidated by you. And one of the things to learn on this journey is understanding that building relationships with people is very, very beneficial and important. And while you can do things on your own, it's important to take your independence and to use it in order to kind of build relationships with other people, because this can help you ultimately in your life moving forward and moving ahead. And so that's what Aries represents, basically. Now, when we talk about having a Taurus South Node, this is all about comfort. It's all about luxury. Kind of a little bit different from Aries, where Aries is very good at kind of working hard and carving their own path and being independent. Taurus is very, very comfortable chilling. You're very comfortable with kind of not wanting to do anything. And a lot of the times people misconstrued Tauruses with being lazy. It's not that they're lazy, it's just that they can chill very, very hard. You know what I mean? And sometimes they can overdo it a little bit. It's easy for a Taurus to overdo kind of, when they get in the groove of just not doing anything, right? And so what's important about this is that you come into this life with a comfortability of comfort. You're used to that comfort in your own life. You might have very good taste for food. You might have very exquisite a voice. You know what I mean? You might be a good singer. You might enjoy singing. Music might be something that you enjoy. When you think about beauty might be something that you're naturally good at. Anything have to do with these Venusian themes, because Taurus is ruled by the planet Venus. And so when we think about having a Taurus South Node, you're very comfortable with being pleasant with other people. You're very comfortable kind of being charming, because Taurus is a very charming sign. You might come in here a little bit stubborn. Now, one of the challenges for you is understanding that your comfort isn't what is always going to benefit you in this life. And so how this kind of can differ from the South Node is one of your main challenges is understanding that it's okay to change. It's okay to take something else on that you're not necessarily familiar with, right? Taking on new challenges, doing new things that's going to help you grow and evolve in this lifetime is going to be very beneficial to you. And so one of your big lessons in this life is understanding that you are a lot more powerful when you're able to adapt to certain situations, right? Not necessarily sticking and saying the same, as well as understanding that you need to open up your voice and kind of stand up for yourself, right? Boundaries might be a big issue for you in your life. And so those are kind of the challenges and main themes of Taurus. Moving on, if you have Gemini as a part of your South Node, if you have your South Node in the sign of Gemini, this gives you ultimately the ability to have a great communicative style, right? You might be a very fast talker. How you process information is you process it very quickly and you could be somebody who's very witty. You might be somebody who's funny, but your mind is what is your ultimate gift in this lifetime, and it can help you achieve success in your own life. Something that you're very comfortable with might be speaking. You might be really comfortable with gaining a lot of friends, and you just have a knack for words, and you might be a good writer, you might be a good speaker, you might even be into music as well. There's a lot of musicians with Gemini placements, but so you're comfortable speaking your mind and kind of expressing yourself. And one of your biggest challenges is sharing that knowledge and information that you can so easily learn, to share it with the world, and be able to kind of express yourself freely. Gemini is a kind of a sign that tries to play to everybody else's liking, right? But you gain your own power when you're able to speak authentically, right? Speak your truth authentically and don't care too much about what other people are going to say about you, right? This is the South Node of Gemini, and this is how you can kind of gain the ultimate success in your life, is taking the knowledge and understanding that you have and sharing it with the world and being a little bit unfiltered, taking on a little bit of that those Sagittarian traits where you're blunt, you're honest, you're not afraid to potentially step on toes if you're speaking your truest expression, you know what I mean? And chances are you won't really step on toes when you're being authentic, because it's just who you are. And so that's kind of what it is with Gemini. Moving on to my Cancers out there. If you are a Cancer, shout out to you, but what you come into this life in terms of where you're comfortable is your emotions. You're being able to be nurturing is, you're the ultimate motherly figure, regardless of if you're a man or a woman. You take on these divine traits of just the being ultimately compassionate and ultimately nurturing, and taking these skills and abilities, you can use this in your life in order to gain a lot of success in your life if you use this properly. You're very compassionate, you're very intuitive, so using your intuition is going to help you a lot of the time through this journey of success. One of your challenges though is stepping into that work mode, being able to kind of set your emotions aside at times and doing things that not necessarily based off of how you feel, but understanding what needs to be done. And so that is one way that you can utilize this energy for yourself. But intuition is going to be very key. Being compassionate towards others is going to be very key for your success, as well as just being a nurturing in general, and being somebody who can kind of listen is going to be one of your greatest strengths, and it's something that you're most comfortable at.